Hello, wherever you are. My name is Rajiv Chopra and I'm from the Dusty Lens Chronicles. And in this video, I'm continuing on my heat series, except instead of talking about why the world is heating up, I'm now going to talk about why your cameras heat up and why your phones heat up and what you can do to manage this. I have divided this video into two sections. The first is to answer the question, why do your cameras and phones overheat? And second, how do we manage heat in the field? I talk about phones like the Fujifilm X-H2S and the Sony Alpha 6700 because most people who get into photography don't want to spend lots of money. The Fujifilm X-H2S is expensive. It's almost twice the cost of the X-H2S. So if you are getting into photography, this video is for you. And it doesn't mean that you should not watch it if you have an expensive camera like the X-H2S. It's just that if you have a camera like the X-H2S, your heating problems won't be as severe as that of a person who has an X-H2S or a Sony Alpha 6700. In the second part of the video, I will talk about how we manage heat in the field. It's not only due to the sun that your phone or your camera will overheat. The sun plays a role, yes, especially in North India, in the summer of North India, which is becoming hotter and hotter. It's what's happening inside. Cameras have become almost like little computers with lots and lots of electronic components. And to run the electronics, they use a little bit of electrical energy or electronic energy. I will use the term electrical energy to make life simple. But some of this electrical energy is converted into heat as a byproduct. And in a camera, your sensor, the image processor, the battery, the screen, everything generates heat simultaneously. Remember that they generate heat together, not in sequence. And in a phone, you add your modem, your GPS chip, your cellular radio, and everything that's all running in parallel. Plus, of course, the phone has a smaller body. Videos tend to be the worst offenders of the lot. Why? When you shoot a still photograph, the sensor fires briefly, the data is transferred to the SD card, one image is processed at a time, and the job is done. In the case of videos, your sensor is reading out data constantly. Your processor is encoding every frame in real time, and this encoding takes a lot more energy than the energy required to process a photograph. Storage is being written constantly in real time, and your screen has to stay on. When you take a photograph, the screen by and large switches off. 4K at 60 frames per second is not just 4 times worse than 1080p, and I'll show that to you later. The workload and the energy requirement is exponentially higher. It's not a linear relationship. Now let's talk about architecture. The X-H2S and the X-M5 both use a CMOS sensor. The X-H2S uses a stacked CMOS sensor, which means there's a stack of two sensors, and therefore the workload is shared between these two. It is shared within the stack. The X-H2S has a standard readout speed, and because of the stack structure, the X-H2S has a faster sensor readout, which makes life a bit easier. The smaller body of the X-H2S also means that the limited thermal mass, which means that there's more heat hitting a small body, and that heat hitting the small body goes directly inside and it generates heat. In the case of the X-H2S, the larger body means that the external heat is being spread throughout the body's area, which makes a big difference, and it also has a heat dissipation structure built into the camera, which is not the case of the XS20 or the X-M5. Also, you can get an optional cooling fan. It's expensive, but that's the way that it is. And as you can see, here in the case of the XS20, you get 36 minutes at 4K. And in the case of the X-H2S, you get 4 hours. The other factor that makes a bit easier with the X-H2S, as I mentioned, the larger, heavier form means that heat is spreading across the surface before it goes inside. In the case of the X-M5 or the XS20, the heat, there's a smaller surface. The heat hitting the smaller surface tends to kind of the smaller area. It's like pressure. Pressure is mass divided by area. The smaller the area, the higher the pressure. So the heat pressure on the XS20 or the XM5 or the Alpha 6700 is higher than the heat pressure on a larger camera like the X-H2S. Plus the X-H2S has been built for sustained video, which means that they've also built in the heat dissipating structure. But then of course you pay more than twice the amount that you will pay for an XS20 or an XM5. In the case of the Sony Alpha 6700, why does it run warmer than the Alpha 6400? That's because the Alpha 6700 has an autofocus processor that uses artificial intelligence, and AI draws more energy. Remember that. What helps you focus also means that your camera gets hotter much faster. That's just the way that life is. You pay more for the camera, you're going to have a better ability to shoot video. But everyone has a different budget. Phones have a slightly more extreme problem. First, they have no fan. So all the cooling is passive, which means it has to go out passively through the metal frame, through the smaller surface of the phone. Again, the smaller surface area of the phone means that heat will leave the phone slowly, much slower than the heat will leave the frame in a camera. And again, the 4K video activates the sensor, image processor, storage, and here storage is internal, which means that it is drawing energy even to store, to stabilize, and your phone becomes hotter. Most of us keep the phone against our body, which also means that our body heat tends to make the phone warm. So what do you do? All this sounds depressing, but what do you do? What can you do? Firstly, start cold. That's very important. So let's assume your ceiling is 50 degrees Celsius. If you start your camera at 20 degrees, you have 30 degrees. The camera can go from 20 to 30. It takes longer to go from 20 to 30. It takes longer to go from 20 to 50 if 50 degrees Celsius is your ceiling. So compared with going from 45 to 50, which happens in a jiffy, going from 20 to 50 takes a lot more time. So start cold as you can. I have been exploring the possibility of putting an ice pack in my camera, but if you ever do that, make sure that you wrap the ice pack in a cloth, because as the ice melts, dew will form on the surface of the ice pack, and the dew will damage your camera. So it comes with a mixed blessing. Store your cameras and your phones in an air-conditioned space. What does that mean? Take the metro. Take an air-conditioned car. Autos or buses are warm, so not ideal. And do not ever leave your gear in a closed vehicle in the Indian summer. Think about this. Nowadays, with all the trees being cut, finding parking space under a tree or in the shade is becoming more difficult. So there's a very high possibility that your gear and your car will be parked in an open parking. And all of us know that when we get back to our car, the heat inside hits us. And it's almost like a greenhouse. The heat stays trapped inside the car. So the first thing that we do is we open our car windows to let this heat escape. So if you leave your gear in a closed vehicle, that trapped heat is going to make your camera very hot or your phone very hot, and it will collapse very fast. Reduce your frame rate. If you're shooting 4K 24p, you can get maybe 2 hours of shooting a video. But if you're going 4K at 60p, that reduces to 36 minutes. So remember what I said. The relationship is not linear, it is exponential. Other key settings. When the camera is not on a tripod, switch off the inbuilt image stabilization. Switch off the Wi-Fi of your camera, the Bluetooth and the GPS. You don't need them. Use them later when you're back home and you want to transfer your data to the phone or the app. But when you're on the field, reduce it. Reduce the screen brightness if you can, but also set your power setting to eco. I have done that to my X-M5 and it makes a big difference. So that's something which is critical. And if you have a screen, fold it and close it between shoots. Shade the camera also. So remember that. If you keep your camera hanging around, hanging on your neck, you're exposing it to the direct solar radiation and your camera is going to get hotter. Most of us use cameras with a black body. This gets much hotter than a camera with a chrome body. I am planning to explore the possibility of buying a silver or a white camera wrap. Why? White reflects heat, black absorbs heat. Silver reflects heat better than white. So I will explore the possibility of a silver or a white camera wrap. It might look a bit silly, but it helps. Very important. If you have a second body or a phone, rotate them during extended sessions. So when I am out, I will carry my X100V, my Fujifilm X100V, or my Fujifilm X-T4, which I use exclusively for still. And then I will carry the Fujifilm X-M5 for video, which I rotate either with a GoPro or with my phone. In between, I switch it off. And again, I put it in the bag. I put the camera in the bag in between shoots. I also ensure that I close the screen. So in the case of the X100V, I can't close the screen, but I switch off the camera. In the case of the X-M5, I can fold the screen into the camera, so do that. Do not kind of have it exposed and do not keep the screen on. Switch off your camera in between takes. You can get external cooling. So the Fujifilm has you can buy the Fan 001. Ulanzi or Tilta, which are Chinese brands, they have cooling fans for the XS20 or the Alpha 6700. It fits the... Why do I say that? Because these Ulanzi fans fit the XS20 and the Alpha 6700. They kind of clip onto the back of your camera and they will cool the camera. Unfortunately, these Ulanzi fans available in India seem to be too big for the backside of my X-M5, so I need to go to the market and check out the compatibility. So always check the compatibility of the external cooling fan with your camera before you buy it. Don't just buy it because it's there on Amazon or whatever. For your phones, you do have these Peltier clip-on coolers, mobile gaming cooling pads. Now, all these external cooling devices fall under the category of what I call essential accessories. If you're going to be shooting out a lot, externally or in the sun, you need these devices. It's something which is becoming essential because India is becoming hotter and almost unbearably hot. So think about what's going to happen to your camera. Also remember, if your camera keeps overheating, at some point the camera will get spoiled and then you have to buy a new camera. So spend 4,000 or 5,000 rupees on a cooling fan or a cooling device and save the cost of buying a new camera. With your phone, all of us often forget to switch off the apps that are running in the background. So you'll have, WhatsApp or Instagram or Twitter or XYZ open, and then you start shooting video. But each of these apps is going to draw energy. And it's almost like when you have 5 or 6 or 7 windows, tabs open, and your computer will slow down because all of these draw memory. So close all the background apps. Absolutely critical to ensure that everything that takes energy is switched off. Do not charge your phone while recording video. This should be obvious because when you're charging, your phone tends to become warm. So if you have one of those external battery packs, ensure that you're doing nothing else, not doing any video sort of stuff. Again, most of us don't do that. Keep the phone in open air or put it in a separate bag if you want to. I think that's absolutely critical. And that's the end of this video. I hope you find this video useful. Leave a comment and hit the subscribe button. Share the video with your friends who might find it useful. And I will see you in the next video. So, Rajiv Chopra from the Dusty Lens Chronicles saying goodbye for now. See you next time. Ciao. And don't forget to subscribe.